And welcome in one more time, once again. Not one more time. This is our last show. Goodbye. No, to the Spin Cycle, Andrew Southwick and R.C. Williams with you once again on this
Oh boy.
Thursday. I know I'm telling you, man. Everything is upside down and backwards in my world here, but that's okay. I think we still have another show after this.
I certainly hope so. If not, we're in trouble, man.
Yeah, yeah. Spin Cycle, and we have a couple of interesting stories that tie together that I think both have pretty what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Influential,
Yeah, close enough. That'll work. That's good.
dramatic, dynamic midterm implications. And so we're going to uncover that today, or unpack that today, rather, not uncover it. And as we're getting started again, reminder, if you're checking us out, wherever you're checking us out, please, um, like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. It helps the show. Wherever you're seeing this, we'll give you more platforms later on. But if you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook and you haven't yet, give us a follow, give us a subscribe. Again, we really appreciate it and appreciate your time. All right, we're going to dig right into this. I want to play a video, and this is a lengthy video. Normally, it's kind of a longer clip than I would normally play, but it's a clip from Glenn Beck, who made an appearance on the Michael Knowles show, and Glenn Beck is explaining to Michael Knowles what he believes President Trump's endgame is with everything. As you know, and as we've talked about, RC, our economy is in the toilet. Our dollar our purchasing power is reduced, seemingly by the second. I believe we just passed the $40 trillion debt mark yesterday morning as a nation. So happy 250th. And, we have a war wasn't declared by Congress. Of course, what else is new? We've got big tech swooping in. We've got data centers all over the place. We have corporatism infecting the GOP. And in all of that, we say, President Trump, why aren't you focused on these things that are here in America? Well, Glenn Beck is going to try to reset this for us.
Can't
And
wait.
I'm not, look, some of the stuff that he says, I'm not saying I disagree with him. I agree with Glenn Beck on a lot of things when it comes to worldview. But anyway, well, let's check this out. And again, this is about 3.5 minutes, so bear with me here as we work through this. But wanted to play this, and then we'll respond here. So let me get this rolling.
I think, though, that the entire political system is disconnected on all sides.
Yeah.
The only ones that really have a clue, but they're lying to you, is the socialists.
Yeah.
The socialists are talking about where people are living right now.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know what's going on. It seems completely unfair. The system is broken. I can't afford my bills.
Yeah.
And no one in the Democrats or the Republicans are actually addressing that. Donald Trump is, he fixed the leak. They fixed the pipe in 2016, but he fixed it with tape because he had to fix it quickly. Okay. He thought he had another term. He's not fixing the pipe with tape this time. He's replumbing the entire house. And so it's like, it's that moment in the Money Pit where they buy this house and it's great. The house is Donald Trump. We're the ones who bought this house and it's great. It's going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. I can't believe we got it. It's finally our dream house. And then it's a money pit and nothing is being fixed. And you're spending all this time. You're like, they're never going to fix it. Why aren't they fixing it? And they get a divorce or they're headed for divorce right when it's finished. Okay. That's the situation we're in. Everybody's giving up because they're like, what is he doing? I don't have a house. They keep making promises, but I don't have it. He's fixing it. He's fixing the house, but he's doing all the things you don't want to do that will make your life miserable for a while.
Right.
Okay. That's a conversation that he's not having with the American people. He's completely redoing the house, and he's doing it because he knows if I don't do that, whatever fix I make through executive order, it will be changed the minute I leave. So I have to fix the structure of everything. I have to replumb, I have to re-electrify the house, and then I have to repoint the foundations. So he's doing all of this, which he won't get credit for until he's gone, I think.
Right.
And that's when people realize, oh, crap, he's just redesigned the entire world without the economic forum. You know what I mean?
It's a great point, including on the threat that we're all going to get divorced before the house is fixed.
Yeah.
And you say, no,
It
guys,
could happen.
just stop it. Just wait 1 second.
Right.
You know?
Because everybody is playing the short game.
Yeah.
And everybody is also playing for their own team. I want Vance. I want Rubio. I want the person that understands what he's doing. I'm not saying he's doing everything perfectly, but what he's doing, he is truly putting America first, and he's doing really hard things that nobody. Why are we in Iran? We're in Iran because of nuclear weapons, yes, but we're also in Iran right now for the pipelines that they wouldn't build without a crisis. We're taking away the choke points, and we're controlling the choke points over against our enemies in China and in the Middle East. We're taking control or neutralizing the choke points here and over there. I had dinner with the Prime Minister of the Czech Republic. I was over there a few months ago, and it's clear they know exactly. I said, what is Donald Trump doing, do you suppose? I knew what I thought he was doing. He thought the same thing. He said he's repositioning the entire world. All of the power will be in North America and in your hemisphere. That's exactly what he's doing.
Well, okay. So let me take this a couple different positions here. Or a couple different notes. Number one, I do think, only the socialists are talking about where people are and the communists. That's true. But it does seem like we're taking what President Trump is doing in this 2.0 term, and we're looking back on it and trying to reframe it. A little revisionist history as to what's going on, because I don't remember the pipelines ever being said as a reason why we went to Iran in the first place. In fact, that's one of the first times I'd heard about the pipelines in Iran. So, okay, well, maybe that's true. Now, I don't mind having the world rebuilt without the economic forum. That's great. But what about the USA? Because, and Glenn Beck said, we're going to have some misery. Well, why isn't the president telling us why we're having this misery? Why? And if you want to talk about the hard things that we're not willing to do, we mentioned it yesterday. We've mentioned it. It comes up every election cycle. America's entitlement spending that nobody wants to do, that is what is blowing out our budget. And if you want to talk about putting duct tape on a pipe, well, why is it that then in year 4 of Trump term number 1, we all of a sudden just blew out the spending, and we have maintained the Biden-era levels of spending and then some in this term? So I'm not sure that's a pretty leaky pipe, if you ask me. And that's one of the pipes that's screwing us over in terms of, because it's debt spending, it's inflationary spending. Inflation was down in May from 4.2 year over year to 3.4. That doesn't mean inflation stopped. It just means it increased slower. It's still inflated. You know what I'm saying? So, and we've talked about that actually, very specific details how those things work. The corporatism, the corporate capture of DC, of both of our parties, you have to, why aren't we redoing that? Why aren't we replumbing that? Why are we focused on the World Economic Forum and Iran and all these other places? I get we don't want Iran to have a nuke, but we were also told that they can't have a nuke. We were told that the uranium, the minerals, whatever they needed was too far into the ground and only America could get it. So doesn't that mean game over? We were told that we control the Strait of Hormuz, but then we're also told that we don't have a peace deal to control the Strait of Hormuz. We're coming up on the another 60-day expiration, 60 days of peace, and how peaceful they have been. It's just amazing when you see the news footage of everybody over there in the Middle East holding hands, singing "I'd like to teach the world to sing" and sharing a bottle of Coke. That's just so inspirational. I can't wait for their encore of "We Are the World." But as it were, I mean, look, I'd love nothing more. Well, there's a few things I would love more, but if that's your foreign policy, as Glenn Beck described, then fine. Let that be your foreign policy. But if we're just looking back on this and trying to reframe it, because we've got a mess on our hands that we can't control because Trump is just doing whatever he wants. And it is causing actual pain in America that no one can deny, then we need to actually look at the things they're actually causing this pain and do something about it. I don't know. Your thoughts here?
Well, Andrew, if you like your kinetic action, you can keep your kinetic action. Sorry, I had to get that one in. I couldn't help myself. So, but seriously speaking, so Glenn Beck apparently got a phone call that he needed to carry the water. So I'll give him that, right? And listen, I don't necessarily disagree with the overall premise, because it wouldn't be the first time in history where people had to go through some pain for long-term gain. But I do have a couple of questions, and I actually wrote them down, which is rare for me. So Glenn Beck talked about the fact that he's replumbing, right? And that, you know, if he was just to do stuff by executive order, it wouldn't stick. Then why does he keep doing executive orders, Glenn?
Mm-hmm.
If he's redoing the plumbing, why does he keep doing executive orders? What he should have been doing, as we have said since before Election Day 2024, is be in the ultimate foot race to get as much codified into law as possible. Because if you don't, by the time the midterms get here, you'll be in a position where the entire legacy and the entire plan gets blown out if the House turns or the Senate turns. You're in a whole lot of trouble. And yet here we are. And so the best pickup we get is that, hey, we're replumbing the House, you know, so that things by executive order, you know, you're not just relying on that, but that's kind of what we've been relying on while we're replumbing the. And so maybe there wasn't an opportunity to pass legislation. Oh wait, you have a majority in both chambers. Huh? I wonder, but I digress. The second one, so the pipeline thing. Listen, with this too, strategy wise, like I can see why you wouldn't want to show your cards on that. Like I can completely appreciate that. But here's my thing, Andrew, and this has been my thing since the beginning. We are such a superior power and force that you're telling me we couldn't get done what we needed to get done, restore order in a meaningful way, and then get people moving on pipelines? So this is 402,846,103D chess, right? Is this some kind of weird move where it involves a messy kinetic action war conflicty thingy that we can't seem to get out of? And that's the diversion so that pipelines get built so the Strait of Hormuz is no longer the primary choke point, even though we said we have it under control? Or is this just a mess and we can't admit it? Like
America is a very forgiving people, actually, when it comes to these kinds of things.
I agree.
Now certainly on a foreign policy mess, a war mess of this scale, nobody wants to admit that. I don't think any politician or any administration would. But if we would just come up and be honest, say, okay, we saw it going this way, here's how it's going, so this is what we need to do. But I'm not sure that they know this is what we need to do to get out of it. Clearly, there's not an off-ramp in sight at the end of this 60 days. And you know what's going to have to happen, just like last time. We have to pretend there's a stoppage, and then we have to start a new 60-day clock, because the president, according to the Constitution, is supposed to ask for a congressional declaration of war, which everybody agrees this is a war now. And if he doesn't do that, he's got 60 days after military action begins to go to Congress and explain what happens. Well, what President Trump did in the first 60 days is there was that little week-long pause in the middle, and then he restarted it again and restarted the clock here. That's going to happen again, because clearly we're not going to Congress to get anything declared, and Congress won't, because they're too busy trying to save their butts in the midterms, as it were. So we're going to see another new nicknamed 60-day period operation, whatever the heck. And yeah, so I mean, we don't have. That's the thing. It's hard to even draw a conclusion, because I don't think anybody knows really what's going on. And the only way we can kind of say there's something positive happening is if we look back on it and try to reposition it and reframe it and make it look like something that we would all be for, which maybe that'll be one of the results. I have my doubts on some of that, but my goodness, I mean, just a mess. Anyway, I give you the last word. Then I've got another story here coming up that's going to tie into this here in our next segment. But go ahead.
I am trying so hard not to be the crotchety old man and Billy get off my lawn. But listen, guys, Juliana and I, Andrew, all of us, we're professionals, right? We do this, we bring information. We've done this for years now. We are also human. And I got to be honest with you. This entire process, there is so much hokum and BS and grifting going on right now that it becomes exceedingly difficult to look at any of this stuff without a skeptical eye. Now, I don't think Glenn Beck is a bad guy necessarily. But if I had a private moment with him, my question to him would be, so what was the official charge for coming back around and carrying the water this time when you had spent a good chunk of time being a skeptic of this entire thing? Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah. Well, while we are figuring that out, Speaker Mike Johnson is battling battling high prices in Iran midterm woes. This, according to a report from Newsmax. They say from the article, the Louisiana Republican has appeared with more than a dozen candidates over the past 3 weeks, according to the Washington Examiner, including Republicans defending some of the most competitive seats in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Virginia, and Colorado. Johnson has also ventured into Democrat-held districts where Republicans hope favorable maps or strong recruits can provide badly needed backups. And of course, if the GOP loses its majority, President Donald Trump is virtually certain to face another round of impeachment hearings. By the way, we predicted this from before President Trump was even elected. We said he's going to have about 18 months once he gets in to codify things into law, because after that, when you typically have that midterm swing back to the other party, whatever party's not in power, that's usually what happens. Then you're gonna at least get stalemated, if not have this nonsense going on. The article says Johnson is pitching voters on what Republicans call their contrast for America, quote unquote, arguing that the election presents a choice between GOP common sense and a Democratic Party moving toward hard left socialism. Also, you would have heard that here first when we literally said the Republicans are going to run against communism because they can't run on their record right now. Here is, and I want to get back to, let's see, the war is becoming intertwined with the economic argument. Gas prices have climbed to their highest level ever recorded for August, with the national average reaching around $4.06 a gallon, roughly $1 higher than a year earlier. So much for gas prices and energy prices in half in the first year. A 60-day peace deadline expired this week without the central disputes between Washington and Tehran resolved. That's what we just talked about, leaving sanctions, military operations, and disruptions to regional energy flows in place. Recent polling shows Trump losing support, even among portions of the Republican electorate, amid frustration over inflation, gas prices, and the war, adding danger for the GOP congressional candidates who have closely aligned themselves with the president. Do you think so? Okay, so Johnson is betting that candidate quality, fundraising, and Democrat nominees viewed as too progressive for their districts can overcome the national environment. That is now what we're going to run on. Hopefully we get some good candidates. But the problem is, as we just saw in the primaries in Florida, our candidate selection system is rigged to weed out the good candidates. And it's rigged for the establishment corporatist, globalist, transhumanist ones that masquerade as Republicans. And by the way, even in Florida, the Democrat Party knows that Florida is so Republican and had to get a former Republican, David Jolly, to try to put a more conservative face on the Democrat side. That's why Jolly's the nominee. Come on, right? Republicans have legitimate pickup opportunities, including Maine's open second district and several Democrat-held battlegrounds. RC, do you think Mike Johnson effectively just pushing water uphill here, especially if we're saying that, well, we want the Democrats to be perceived as communists, therefore people will vote Republican, even though we know that Republicans do own the economy. They own the war because we started it. And we also are owning the proliferation of data centers, which no one wants. And just those three issues alone are such low-hanging fruit that if the Republicans would embrace that and say, hey, I get it, here's what I'm going to do for you. I know you're paying more at the pump. I know you're paying more at the grocery store. No, I'm not going to browbeat you and tell you to make burritos for $20 a night. I'm gonna help restore the purchasing power to your dollar, and we're gonna cut spending at the same time, and we're also gonna deal with entitlements, starting with Gen X and moving forward, weaning the American people off of the government teat once and for all. That would be, I think, at least that would be a brave, again, President Trump's doing the hard things nobody wants to do. I don't see anybody wanting to do that.
Wow. It's almost like we were reading a piece from CNN. Andrew, interestingly enough, no, this is a piece from Newsmax. Not necessarily the best when you think about conservative things, but hey, a conservative publication and network nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. When you have someone who is not the strongest of leaders in that position and they've been given a bad hand, yeah, of course you're pushing water uphill, you're ice skating uphill, or whatever the case may be. I don't know if you can spray enough perfume on this turd to make it palatable enough for people, right? And I think we saw part of that even here in Florida, where you had the Trump endorsement and everything else. Byron Donalds, there were 53% of Republicans who came out to vote who did not want him as an option, right? So what does that say? Well, people say, oh, they split the vote, but still, out of everybody that voted, combined, all those people ended up with more percentage points than the guy that won. Now, he still won, and that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, that should be a tell. And Andrew, I've spent a decent amount of time sharing on X about this exact thing, saying, listen, you need to look at this in context. It's kind of like how people looked at Amendment 4 here in Florida, which was the enshrining abortion into the Constitution. They're like, we won. I'm like, no, you got a stay of execution. The only reason that that's not in the Constitution today is because the threshold for a constitutional amendment in the state of Florida is 60%. That vote came in at 57%. And in many counties in the state of Florida, it got over 60%. So you didn't win anything. You just emboldened the other side to know that they only got 3 points to go. I don't think we're in all that a different place right now, Andrew, whether it is here with our gubernatorial race and any of the others, by the way, because there are going to be some other tight races that probably shouldn't be so tight. And even what we saw in Wyoming, you being a Republican does not make you safe amongst conservatives. Just being honest. Our friend Valerie Works has been hard at work this morning on social media talking about the realities of an NPA option. And for somebody who made a showing, it may not be out of the realm of possibility that they should pursue it and take their case directly to the people. That's a wedge buster, friends. And if it was to happen here, I don't think it would be the only place that it happened. And then people end up making their voices heard. The arrogance of the Republican Party is going to be its undoing. People just don't seem to get when people are fed up enough. Because now what I'm seeing from the influencers is, where are they going to go? You know, you keep asking that question. They're going to theoretically hit you in the face with a baseball bat, and you're going to have no answer because your arrogance will be your undoing, because you are not paying attention to the tone and temperature of the people who are having to deal with this, Congressman Johnson or Speaker Johnson. You know, look, not all your fault, but man, you got to do something here. Oof.
Well, I would say this, people will sometimes hear this, or they'll hear our arguments and say, well, are you saying not to vote for Republicans? No, there are some good Republicans. Are you saying not to vote for Democrats? Yes, I am saying that. Because communists have taken over the party. It's clear. And we're going to dig into that a little bit more on the Sunday show this weekend, Culture Crossroads. So you want to look out for that report. But also, we are saying conservatives, we need to stop accepting the slop that the establishment gives us, because the establishment is bought in with the same globalists that ultimately run the Communist Party too. All that's going to go in the same direction. It's just going to be one different shade of dress or another. And we're saying, yeah, I do agree with Mike Johnson that we need quality candidates, but we the people have to be the ones that demand those. Now, was an 11-person primary, for example, in the state of Florida a good thing for choosing the governor, probably not. Maybe there's a different way to do that, because that's part of the
Yeah.
reason why there was such a plurality. If you don't have 11 people in there, most of whom got less than 1%, you weed that out to 3, maybe 4, you might actually peel some Donald's votes away. And then, as I was mentioning yesterday, if you know you have an Andre the Giant force that you're up against, that you believe is not right for your state, that you believe is at all compromised from big money, big donors, whatever that is, then it's not a matter of teaming up with somebody that you're running against, but it's a matter of everybody aiming their fire on that and exposing who you think that person is and bringing that stuff out. Because here's the other thing, RC, if they don't, the Democrats are going to do it in the general.
Yep.
And that's kind of too little too late, because then if you lose, now you do have communists in the seat of power, you know? And so we're saying, no, we don't need to accept the narrative that who else you're going to vote for. We can show them who else we can vote for. We can write in votes. We can, you know, I'm not saying don't vote. I'm not saying don't vote Republican, but I'm saying let's start demanding quality Republicans and quality conservatives and people who care about America and who, if they're going to go to war, are going to tell you why we're going to war and what the objective is going to be and how we're going to get there. If they're going to blow out the spending, they're going to tell us, okay, here's what's going to happen. The inflation's going to hit. This is what we'll need to do to allow the market to correct so that you don't lose purchasing power in your dollar. I hear it said quite a bit, and even Bill Maher recently said it. Well, hey, yeah, the grocery prices are up, gas prices are up, but wages are also up. Well, that's great, except the dollars you're making for those wages aren't worth the same as they were even 5 years ago, let alone 30, let alone 50. We just did a report a few weeks ago how if you had $100 right after World War II, that same $100 has so deflated and been devalued, you need $1,800 today to buy what $100 bought you after World War II. That's, you want to talk about people taking your money and funneling it through to other places, there it is. And I could give you some more examples there. But the Republicans need to wake up on this. And some of them, somewhere, my goodness. And again, some of them did, and that's also why probably they didn't win their primaries and didn't get the money, because the donors didn't like what they said. But we need to work hard to push those candidates further in primaries to come in terms of whatever effect our elections will have on the state of affairs here.
Listen, the only thing that these empty suits truly understand, and we have learned this boots on the ground, real time, real world experience, is power. And when you make a move as a block and you show them the power that you have, then all of a sudden they jump to attention. That's a pro tip there. And there's a real lesson in this as we head for a general election in November about your ability to change the trajectory of things or to hold the people who claim to want to represent you in check and to hold them accountable. But that involves us.
Mm-hmm. I want to one more story in our last couple of minutes because I want to get your take on this.
Yeah.
This is, again, it's also from Newsmax. It's just happened to be where everything came from, and that's just the way it is. Rubio outperforming Vance in 2028 matchups. Now, I don't know how much of this is political distraction. Some of it is kind of, I realize it's political candy. It's going to taste good. It's a Jolly Rancher, what have you. Maybe it's a proxy for something else. But anyway, from the article, Secretary of State Marco Rubio slightly outperformed Vice President J.D. Vance in multiple hypothetical 2028 presidential matchups against Democrat candidates. The Emerson College polling / The Hill survey tested the two Republicans against 5 potential Democrat contenders and found Rubio performing better than Vance in 4 of the 5. The clearest difference came against former Vice President Kamala Harris. Harris led Vance 49-45, while Rubio reversed the result and led Harris by 5 points. So this goes on to break down some of the other potential candidates. When it comes to, for example, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who I'm going to tell you right now, do not underestimate AOC as someone on the ticket, either in the vice presidential or the presidential top of the ticket. She was the only, however, Democrat who trailed both Republicans. But again, don't underestimate this stuff. I mean, we had sleepy Joe Biden in the basement defeat President Donald Trump in 2020. So do not take that lightly. I want to ask you, do you think that Rubio v. Vance is much ado about nothing? Is there something here? I also have a couple of JD Vance clips if we have some time. Because the other piece about JD Vance is, as we've talked about, his previous views combined with those who support him as their donors, i.e. Peter Thiel, Palantir, the big tech, and all that kind of thing, create some potential problems for somebody to then be sitting in the seat of power, the most powerful seat in the world.
So you're seeing some penetration testing here. So they're testing the waters at critical times to see what plays and what doesn't. You may recall earlier this week on Spin Cycle, we talked about the fact that it's not two wings of the same bird, it's the same feathers on the same wing. So as much as we're going to see JD Vance clips about this whole multipolar world idea, you know, the other person who talked about the fact that it's a multipolar world now? Marco Rubio. So they're testing and they're seeing how much people understand versus what they don't. They want to get an idea of what's going to be palatable and what isn't. But please make no mistake. If it's either one of those two gentlemen, you'll pretty much be getting the same thing. It'll just have a different sheet of paper wrapped around it. So do you like your burrito in green paper or do you like it in red paper? Like, take your pick.
So you think that okay, so let me ask you this. Now, how does somebody like a Byron Donalds play in? We've talked, and you've mentioned a few times that the GOP, that is the party, has plans for Byron Donalds, and part of those plans require him to be the governor of Florida, which, look, if I want to put my money down on the next governor of Florida, I do think Byron Donalds is going to win.
Mm-hmm.
So how does he play into things? Is he a 28 candidate, or is he maybe a 32 or a 36?
No, the plan for Byron would be 2032 because that would give him 8 years in the governor's mansion. He needs 8. That was the plan for DeSantis, right? Because if this had gone the way that it was originally planned, all the talk would be about DeSantis in 2028 and how good it was going to be, right? Because he had turned out. So I think the plan is they know that Donalds has got to get his sea legs under him in state, and he's got to be in that role successfully, and there's some agenda things that have to be moved into place that he'll be responsible for. So I don't think you see him show up until 2032.
Now, but okay, so again, we're walking this out. Let's say we have a Vance or a Rubio, since clearly it looks like one of the two is going to be the coronated successor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's say we have a Vance or a Rubio in 28, and somehow they win. Would Byron Donalds primary one of those two in 2032 the way DeSantis did Trump?
Depending on how it would go in that scenario, they either have him wait because he's got time, right? Mm-hmm. Either they have him wait, or if it goes badly, then yeah, you see him primaried, or that person is asked to step aside so that something new and fresh can get into the mix here so that we can re-energize. It is sad, Andrew, and we've talked about this on the show before. There are many conservative and Republican power brokers who are actually baking in a loss of the White House in 2028. They believe that there will be a Democratic contender that is palatable enough to win. And what they're saying is, well, look, it sounds bad, but really think about it. Then we'd have a very clear and present danger and target and a punching bag that we could focus on to get ready for 2032. But that's the state of affairs. Just in case, for those of you who are carrying the party water and think it's all wine and roses in Florida or anywhere else in the Republican Party, this is what they're saying behind your back, behind closed doors, on how they feel. So I think if we end up with JD Vance, Marco Rubio, or somebody else from the Republican side, depending on how they do in that first term, they may just continue. But if it's going a little bit rough, you may see Byron Donalds swoop in as a savior, and that can be positioned with his growth of the state of Florida and all the innovation that's coming, that it's time. We need to do something. We really need someone who gets it.
Right. And, you know, unfortunately, what that also tells us is that the Republicans don't really have a vision, that is the party apparatus, have a vision for America. What they need are the Democrats to be socialists and communists so they can run against that, because they don't have designs other than that, at least not for America. Not that they're willing to tell us anyway. All right, we're gonna have to leave that there, but of course we'll be back tomorrow with more wonderful stories of whimsy and wonder to bring to you from the magical land they call Washington D.C. Anyway, RC, remind everybody where they can find us.
Oh man. So for Watchman Action, all things Watchman Action start at watchmanaction.org. If you're looking for us on the socials, including YouTube, Facebook, all that good stuff, the handle is Watchman Action across the board. You can also watch the Spin Cycle weeknights at 9:30 Eastern on the brand new Watchman Action 24/7 network. That is channel 40 on Beck Cable in North Dakota and streaming on YouTube, Rumble, and X, and pretty much everywhere else you can imagine, including watchmanaction.org, just for you. Looking for Andrew Southwick? It is Culture Crossroads 316. See all the cool stuff from the Spin Cycle Culture Crossroads and his amazing monologues. That catalog is about to grow as well.
All right. Well, for RC Williams, I'm Andrew Southwick. This has been the Spin Cycle. Thanks for hanging out with us today. We will see you again tomorrow.